Good morning. It's June 22nd, 2020. Hopefully all of you enjoyed an incredible Father's Day weekend. It was, the weather was gorgeous, some great days, had a chance to get out and take advantage of certainly the climate we live in, and being right here on the water. It was an incredible weekend. So from that standpoint, I hope you enjoyed it with your fathers and had a great weekend with children and everything. Certainly the weather was great. We did have one individual we want to recognize today that had a special part in this past week. Proclamation. Whereas Gara Maxine Pittman was born in rural Mississippi on June 19th, 1920, and whereas Maxine met her future husband Fletcher Blaylock on one of his many business trips to a nearby town, Columbia, Mississippi. After a year-long engagement, they were married in 1941. And whereas after becoming a family of five, Maxine and her family relocated to Pensacola, where Fletcher continued in a coin-operated machine business, and together they owned and operated FAB Distributing, along with the well-known Blaylock Music Company. And whereas Maxine's fondest memories of her beloved city are the beautiful Gulf at Pensacola Beach, watching the Blue Angels overhead, and our diverse local cuisine, a few of her favorite being Scopolo's on the Bay, Hopkins Boarding House, and the Oyster Barn. And whereas Maxine has played an integral role in her life of her family and friends over the years, and her faith, love of music, dance, and fellowship will be admired and replicated for many generations to follow. And whereas as a city, we are blessed to be able to share and celebrate this special 100th birthday and our pride in the memories of a rich, meaningful, and full life. Now, therefore, I, Grover Robinson IV, Mayor of the City of Pensacola, do hereby honor Gara Maxine Pittman on behalf of her 100th birthday, June 19th, 2020, and encourage all citizens to join the city in celebrating Miss Pittman's legacy and lasting contributions to our city. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Pensacola to be affixed this 19th day of June, 2020. Grover Robinson, Mayor. So I did want to recognize Miss Pittman. This came from Ann Hill, who I think was there with her on the 19th. We will get her. We will be sure to get her proclamation to her. But we did at least want to recognize her and her family for the special weekend that they had, and we certainly appreciate everything that she has meant to our community over these 100 years. Little update of where we are with COVID. Obviously, the Florida Department of Health has issued a public advisory on Saturday in response to increased COVID cases in the state. The advisory provides the following recommendations. All individuals in Florida should wear masks in any setting where social distances is not possible, unless certain conditions apply, including a child is under 2 years of age or an individual has one or more medical conditions or disabilities to prevent wearing face covering. According to the Florida Department of Health of Escambia County, there are now 1,198 positive cases in Escambia County. The latest update shows a 4.8% positive rate for June 20th. That follows 9.1% for June 19th and 3.6% for June 18th. The number of hospitalizations was 24 as of yesterday, June 21st. That is the highest number we have had since the middle of April. COVID-19 is still something to monitor and take seriously. It is important to continue all CDC guidelines and take preventative actions. I would say along that line, the most important thing that we can do is wear masks. I know many of us were very good at wearing masks when we first opened up in May. We were very disciplined with it through the month of May, and then sort of have gotten out of that habit. And again, I had a chance to go to a couple places over the weekend and see many individuals without masks. We really need to get back to wearing masks when we go to the grocery store. You go to Joe Patty's, you go to other places. We need to be wearing our mask. We certainly wear them here at City Hall. And again, we will be, when we open the building, we will still be requiring people to wear masks in here. The city has never stopped wearing masks, and we believe that needs to happen at all of our buildings and everything else. We encourage you to wear masks. It will slow the spread of what we have of COVID. Now, we've seen an increase, but it's not too late for us if we jump on those things and those habits that we knew were good that we did in April and May. We need to get back to that, and if we do that, I think we can slow the spread of where we are, which will allow us to allow our businesses to be open, but without the kind of spread that ends up potentially crippling our both our businesses' ability to operate, as well as crippling our healthcare. At this particular time, I have continued to be in touch with the healthcare agencies. They feel like at this particular time that the numbers are within their ability to handle. And I think they can probably do considerably more even than they did in April. If, again, our biggest issue is not trying to stop the virus altogether. It's to keep the virus from overwhelming our healthcare system. If we can do that, we're going to be successful. So again, the way to do that is if you are sick or you feel ill, go get a test. We had one individual up here on the 7th floor, and she called in today and said she wasn't feeling well. We said, go get a test, and we'll work, get yourself tested and go home until that time until you can find out what's going on and just take care of yourself. So we'd ask you to all do the same thing with your employees and members of your family. If you don't feel well, go get a test, figure out what's going on, and then proceed from there once you know the results of that test. But again, we've got to stop the spread. Please remember to wear your mask when you're out, and that would be helpful as well. So we've got to follow the CDC guidelines. I know many of y'all have been talking about that and sending stuff to us about wearing masks. And again, I can tell you that everyone here at the City Hall wears masks. That's what we do. And again, we're looking to make sure that everyone in the city wears masks, and we think it's the right behavior for what we need to be doing at this particular time. And certainly the Department of Health for the state of Florida has now issued that statewide. Also coming forward is the Citizens Police Advisory Committee. The name of this committee will be the Citizens Police Advisory Committee. We gave the city council members each an opportunity to appoint someone, and then the mayor's office appointed as well. Here we've got the members of the committee are PC Wu, District 1 appointed Laura McKnight, Sherry Myers appointed Charles Bear, Andy Tahar appointed Drew Buchanan, Jared Moore appointed Scott Remington, John Gerald's appointed Pastor Joseph Marshall, Ann Hill appointed Jonathan Green, and Jewel Canada Wynn appointed Pastor Kendrick Pineda. The mayor's appointments are Haley Morissette, Kyle Cole, Kyle Kopacek, Vin Durant, and Autumn Beck. We ended up making one more additional appointee to bring the total of number to 12. I felt like we perhaps were great balance on black and white, which it's 6 each, but we were less likely balanced on women. But we have now 4 women, 8 men, 4 women, and certainly trying to find more balance in there as we work. This committee ends up now being at 12. The committee is subject to the Sunshine Law, and we encourage all members to use discretion with their communications until they can be briefed on the Sunshine Law requirements. Our next step are beginning to schedule our first meeting, which will again give us a chance to kind of update the group, but also work with Cedric Alexander, Dr. Alexander, as he moves forward, and he will be able to brief them on many of the things we'll be looking at going forward, getting information from our, and again, we hope that all these individuals will be able to go out into their communities that they feel safe in and can represent and get information from them. We will be having virtual meetings, town halls. Obviously, we're concerned about where the increase is going, which has sort of changed how we're doing this a little bit. We're probably not going to have as many town halls as we thought that would be regular town halls, but we certainly will have virtual town halls, and we want to get as much opportunity to talk to you, the citizens, before we figure out what we want to go and go from there. So that at least that committee is now started. We're going to work with all 12 of them to find a date that works for them, or as many as possible. Have that first meeting, and then they will begin to get a little bit more regular from there. Certainly, we met last week with Dr. Alexander and team and began this process. And I think Cedric has us absolutely going in the right direction with this. And I know I think it will be able to provide a place for citizens to work to make sure we're all being better. As again, I think we talked about it with Cedric, and he agrees. When you look at what we've done and what our Pensacola Police Department is doing, there's no one in a 200-mile radius that is doing the things we're already doing, but that doesn't mean we can't be better and lean forward. We have an incredibly great group of officers, men and women that serve the PPD, and they are committed to absolutely figuring ways to improve every day. That's the constant case of what we're trying to do. Just like world-class athletes, you maybe have a world record, but it doesn't mean you can't be better the next time you run. So that's what we're trying to do as a Pensacola Police Department, and we think working with this committee and working with Dr. Alexander will do that for us. The new sustainability coordinator, we are excited to welcome Mark Jackson as our new sustainability coordinator, responsible for managing and facilitating a variety of environmental initiatives in the city. His first day with the city was Monday, June 15th. Jackson joins the City of Pensacola from Miami, Florida, where he's recently earned a Master of Science in Sustainable Business from the University of Miami. He worked with as a natural resource specialist for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers in Georgia, and so we're very happy to have him as a part of our team. The mayor's cleanup. This is just a reminder that the next mayor's neighborhood cleanup will be on Saturday, June 27th in Sanders Beach, Bayou Grove, and West Garden District neighborhoods. Please see cityofpensacola.com to check the map to confirm whether you are in the cleanup area. The mayor's neighborhood cleanup allows City of Pensacola sanitation customers in the cleanup area to leave eligible items, including appliances, furniture, and more at the curb for pickup free of charge. Learn more at cityofpensacola.com. Also, yesterday we had one of our last Sunday strolls. We have one more, just a reminder that our last Palafox Sunday stroll will be Sunday, June 28th. Palafox Street from Garden to Main will be closed to vehicular traffic from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. We encourage you to come out and support local businesses in a safe way. We've certainly seen some of that going forward. We feel like as much as we can get done outside is better in dealing with COVID. And again, that's one of the things we stress to everyone, certainly during the sunlight hours and everything else. If we can be outside, it certainly does a better job of containing with the spike that we're having. The opportunity for us to be outdoors and do things is better for us, and so we would encourage you to look at some of those ways that you could conduct things, go see downtown, be safe, see the things that we're doing, to the amenities that we have, and we encourage you to do that, but do it in a safe way. And the last one again will be on Sunday, the June 20th. Finally, again, our census, 2020 census. This is another reminder that there's still time to complete your 2020 census. We're encouraging all residents to complete the 2020 census to ensure everyone in the community is accurately counted. This is tremendously important for both Pensacola and Escambia County. Our goal is 80%. Right now we sit at basically 63%. So we need more of us. Need to continue to keep putting it in there. Escambia County's response rate right now is almost 60%, 59.4. The census is incredibly important to determine our federal funding. If you can complete your census today at 2020census.gov, it takes 10 minutes, but there's also ways you can complete via phone and other ways that we can work with you if you don't have access to internet and a computer. I know Casey Lagarde over with our PIO is working with this, and if you check our website out, we'll have more ways for you to interact with the census as we continue to work on that. Lastly, I just want to communicate a couple of things that we continue to go through as a community. There's change out there. There's no doubt things will change, and things are always changing. We would like our community to find ways to always change to be better, and we're continuing to look at that. But part of this and change is the only way we can actually do it. The one thing we don't want to change is that we have a respectful community that works together. It is vitally important that we do that if we're going to be successful in how we work together in communicating what we do, and some of the sensitive natures of the things that we're going to be taking on are going to be needed to do with full respect. Change may occur, but it is going to be done in a way that is viable for us not to change who we are as individuals and human beings. What I think is more important with us in Pensacola and Northwest Florida is the community respect that we've always shared in working with one another. Whether we agree or disagree, and I've stated here many times, it is not essential for us to always agree. In fact, differences in diversity make us stronger. But it is only when we respect that difference in diversity that we become stronger. This past weekend, I was very upset by some things that happened, and they've been going on for a while in some of the discussion we've had. We haven't exactly always been truthful in what we presented, and I certainly realize there are a number of things out there, whether online or in print, that have been said on a number of things. But I want to kind of give you an idea of at least time not so long ago, probably 5 years ago exactly, when we dealt with some of these issues in a very serious way. Try to explain sort of what happens and what goes on, and again, so we can understand that even through all of this, we can come through it in a way that is respectful and works to present all sides of the matter. There was certainly the case about 5.5 years ago in December. I know that certainly Rick had this out there, and some comments that I made. I knew that we were not aware at the county that we had the old Confederate battle flag. I knew that was not a respectful way for us to represent our history. And for the most part, in the city of Pensacola, the city had actually gone away from that, and we didn't realize we had one case. So I brought it up, I brought it forward, and I did. Rick mentioned the things I said, and I absolutely said it that night. But I was going to, despite my family's history, I felt like it needed to be taken down and needed to be changed. We ended up voting that night. We voted 4-1, and it still is the official vote of the official flags that are in Escambia County. But there seems to be a turn that wasn't totally correct in what it showed, what happened afterwards. And I think it's important that we all understand when we discuss accountability and how people feel about things. There was an editorial that came out, and I'm going to read it from the Pensacola News Journal on December 20th, 2014. This is not 1914. This is 2014. And so when we look at all the things that are going on, I think we have to understand what has happened and be accountable to that. The Escambia County Commission overreacted when commissioners voted to remove all but Old Glory from the flagpoles at the Pensacola Bay Center. Commissioner Wilson Robertson was right to oppose the ham-fisted maneuver that lacked serious debate, especially from the public. There were serious concerns about the Confederate battle flag flying over the Bay Center, and they should have been aired after the public had a chance to debate the issue. We firmly believe the Confederate stars and bars should replace the battle flag in name of historical accuracy. We need to look no further than our own Earl Bowden, the newspaper's editor emeritus, and he has conducted a research on the subject, including a role in bringing some of the nation's foremost in the Civil War. He has studied the issue for more than half a century. He reached the conclusion the Stars and Bars flag should fly to join the others as one of the city's historic flags. He makes several solid points, which he conducts in here. He says, to be sure, we understand the emotion and sentiment surrounding the Civil War. 2015 will mark the 150th anniversary of the war's end, and we desire to honor those who fought in the Confederacy. However, emotion should not play a role when it comes to historical accuracy and facts. If commissioners are determined to erase a blot on history, why not remove the reference to W.D. Childers Plaza around the Bay Center? Like Bowden, we did research on our own and found this gem from John Adams that sums up the argument of both sides. Facts are stubborn things, and whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of passion, they cannot alter the state of facts and evidence. Based on Mr. Bowden's research and other evidence in the interest of historical accuracy, the stars and bars should be a representative part of Pensacola's 455-year history. Commissioners should revisit the issue as soon as possible and approve a motion to replace the battle flag and allow the other 3 flags to join the U.S. flag, proudly flying over the Bay Center. This is, again, something that came out and again, came forward after a discussion that we had had before. This prompted me to come up with an historical flags ordinance, which I did do, which was documented there by Rick, but not totally in the way it did. What we did was we created a historic flags ordinance that said the official flags of Escambia County are only the U.S. and the state flag. But if Escambia County is ever to fly historical flags, they will fly the same flags that the city flies. So again, we weren't debating which flag was there. That went into a case, and you hear it from the News Journal's own editorial, where they argued this very clearly, that we were not right in the decision that we did to take down that. So I did do that. I came to that point. If I could have thought of another flag, I would have. If you remember, then we get to June of 2015, and we have the shootings in Charleston, at which time the city immediately changed from the stars and bars that was mentioned to the state flag. And because of the ordinance, the way it was structured, that was based off the city flag, the county had to change immediately. However, I was out of the country at that particular time when that happened. When I came back, there was significant discussion that there was concern that the city may change back. So I amended my ordinance, and this is where even Rick did not put it in his information. I amended my ordinance to continue to say going forward, at least to the county, that the state flag will represent the southern flag at that point. But again, I think we see what ends up happening with discussion and debate over time. Do I think that Earl Bowden's statue should be taken down now because he wrote this part? And I remember very vividly, he died shortly after that editorial. And his last, believe cartoon that he put in the News Journal was of me saying we could do better with the flag. So I'm well aware of it. He died shortly thereafter. But I don't believe that necessarily reflects on him. I think it reflects on the issue of diversity of what's happened. It doesn't mean just because you respect and understand history that you take a position that is consistent with everything else. I find it very disheartening that some of the things that I've seen discussed about me, just because I believe that we could display all parts. Been very clear through this process that I don't believe that what is currently there displays for everyone. But I do believe that if there was a way for us to display for everyone, that is a better sense of it. I told you last week, the letter I got from one of the ladies saying, I wish we could put all of our monuments and they'd live together just like we live together. So I think if we deal with this respectfully, and I know there've been parts of it there that addressed comments I did nothing more than simply say, when we do an issue of this kind of delicacy, we have to do it with thoughtfulness and respect. That's all I've tried to do. And it is disconcerting to me to see the reactions taken by some people who, some people I certainly understand get caught up in the moment, but I think there are other people who are very influential in what they write and what is communicated to the public, and I think they do a very poor job when they do that. As I said in that speech that I gave that night in December of 2014, I don't only have family that certainly fought in the Civil War on the southern side, but I have family. My own father and my aunt and my uncle were threatened personally with violence because of what my grandfather did, and I mentioned it in there. So when I see things associated that say somehow me and the KKK, my family has actually been threatened by individuals like that in the KKK and dealing with things in the 50s and 60s. So I'm all too aware of what violence means and what the issue of dealing with things in a non-respectful way and the differences. Those things shape who I am today and why I continue to say, if we're going to deal with this subject, we've got to deal with it respectfully and how we work together. And this point of character assassination and a lot of other things going forward simply is not the right way of who we want to be. If we want to do this the right way, we're going to do it the right way. Part of that is we're going to follow the rules of what is inside the city of Pensacola. There seems to still be this belief that somehow the mayor can do whatever he wants to do. And there's all, as I told some of the people, the protesters, when you say no justice, no peace, I totally understand that. There is no peace without justice. Justice is the fair application and equal application of the law. The law in the city of Pensacola was established in June 22nd of 2000, and then amended on August 21st, 2010. Any proposal that suggests to name, rename, alter, establish, remove, or remove a qualifying historical resource that is the property of the city of Pensacola or is located on a city-owned parcel in the city of Pensacola will be presented to the city council for consideration. Notwithstanding, the city council shall not take final action on any proposal under the policy until a minimum of 30 calendar days from the date of the item is first introduced to the city council. It is not the mayor that makes these decisions. And when I said this 2 weeks ago, I told y'all it wasn't right now. It meant we didn't understand all the things we were going. And when we got to a point where we understood what the rules were, we have gone exactly within the rules of what we've said. It wasn't even a day later on Wednesday that we gave you a plan that we were going to be coming forward to the city council. And that plan continues to be working forward. You hear one of the potential, I know last week that there is, if the city council makes a choice to move, there is the potential that it could go to St. John's Cemetery. And I've talked with Eric Stevenson personally about this, and I appreciate very much his willingness to do so, because we've talked to other cemeteries to give council choices and options, and other cemeteries have not wanted to do it. But there will be other choices out there. We've also talked to other people, historical museums, and there's very likelihood that some of those may have a place where they can show these artifacts in a historical context, an appropriate museum way. We will present all of those to the council. The council will make that decision. It's not about what I want, it's about what the council chooses, and I will respect whatever decision comes out of the council. But I want it to be done in the right way that is respectful. As long as we follow all the procedures of it, I see that there is no ability for the council's decision to be challenged and work forward. I realize a lot of these things. I get conversations from people who tell me history shouldn't change. Well, if history shouldn't change, then there should be no problem with us going back to the name of Florida Square, because it was Florida Square before it was Lee Square. And again, from those standpoints, we'll be taking that topic as well. I believe there's an opportunity for it to go back to what it was historically and to reflect all of us as we get ready to celebrate our 200 years. But the only way we can celebrate 200 years of being together is by doing this respectfully. And again, I think all of us have to understand the issues of what happens. Nothing happens in a vacuum. And I think the Pensacola News Journal editorial clearly shows a lot of what happened after the last time we took a vote. The News Journal may not, because of where their stances are today and some of the things that we've seen in the paper, may not want to remember this time and this article, but it very clearly was their position, and it very clearly influenced me. And I certainly knew Earl Bowden and respected him. He gave my uncle one of his first jobs, so I knew Earl very well. My father was friends with Earl, and I certainly understood, and it meant a lot to me. And I think those were reasons I thought it was right for us to come back for a historic flags ordinance. Now, if I could have thought on that December night of the state flag, I would have done it. But I wasn't the only one there. There were probably hundreds of people in the audience. There were 4 other commissioners. If we could have thought of it then, it just means we didn't think about it at the right time. But I feel comfortable where we landed was the right place. I feel comfortable that through respectful debate on this topic, we will come to the right place as a city and as a community and a region, that we'll come together with a decision that we all can live with. And from there, we can all move forward in the right way. But we can only do that when we handle it respectfully. So with that, I'm going to end my portion, and I'm more than happy to take any questions from any of you, and I'll look forward to answering those questions.
First question is from Dave at WWF. He said, given the rise of COVID cases around the state lately, are you rethinking your reopenings here?
You know, Dave, I don't know that we're rethinking them. Again, the challenge with COVID is not to stop COVID from happening. In fact, I mean, you look at places like Sweden and otherwhere, I mean, to an extent, we are trying to get people to get COVID, but we've always talked about trying to lengthen out the span of it. It's never been about stopping it from happening. And I think that's where this debate happens. When we were in March, we very clearly understood the whole idea was flattening the curve. It was flattening the curve. Then we kind of got to April and May, and it was like we were seeing the numbers go down so low. It was like, well, we could stop it altogether. I think stopping it altogether is an unrealistic expectation. I think the more realistic expectation of what we can do is deal with it in a way that prevents our hospitals from being overrun, prevents us from losing enough manpower that we can't do the jobs we need to do. That's why we continue to look at both our police and fire to make sure we have enough people to do the jobs. We look at our own up here, the 7th floor, but we're not immune from it. The city of Pensacola has people who are out with COVID. But the bigger part is if people can just get tested, stay away for the amount of time that they get well, come back at that point, everyone wear masks. If we could really get that going forward, Dave, I think that would be more, that's more successful than us shutting everything down again. I think if we learn how to operate this and we do it well, when you look at May and you look at the numbers we were experiencing in May, Dave, we were doing this correctly. Everybody was pretty much wearing masks, and we kind of got laxed into this, lulled into this kind of thinking that we no longer needed to do it and COVID was gone. Obviously, COVID's back, but we just got to remember the same lessons that got us there. Don't shake hands, wear your mask, wash your hands all the time. If we get back to these simple things, we can keep it checked in such a way that we actually help making sure that people get COVID but do it safely and end up not in any way causing our medical hospitals to be overwhelmed. I think if we can do that and keep them from doing that part, I think opening is good. I think we need to rethink some things from a cost standpoint. We could have done this a lot cheaper if we just figured out ways to deal with being able to send people home and continue to make sure they're paid. A lot of times people show up back at work is because they're not getting paid. If they have COVID, if they go get a test, then we absolutely should find a way as employers, and there should be if we created some kind of fund to help small businesses be able to pay those individuals so they don't show up back at work and then spread it. That is what we see so much going through here. If we could do that, if the people who have it go home, get tested, find out, and stay at home for 2 weeks, then we get out of it. I mean, I've experienced it personally in my own family. My son had it. He's doing fine, very well. He was back at work by the end of April. So again, it's not to say the goal is not to prevent people from having COVID. The goal is to prevent our hospitals from being overwhelmed. And I don't think opening is naturally, the opposite of that. But I do think we've got to do a better job of washing our hands, not shaking hands, and wearing masks. If we do those things, we're going to be better off.
Next question is from Jeremy. What did you learn from area hospital officials last week? Are they concerned with the increase in COVID cases?
They were not at the particular time. I mean, they felt like they never even scratched the surface of their capacity in April. Again, April, we went up to like 30 hospitalizations. The interesting thing that they told me last week was that when we met on this, that they said of the people they had hospitalized, only one of them at the time, this was last week, there were like 14 in Sacred Heart. Dawn Rudolph told me that only one of them was on a ventilator. So she said our ventilator capacity is, I mean, we're not even scratching it right now. We've got tons of opportunities in capacity. They did have some people in rooms. but she said for the most part, we still have significant capacity there. So at this particular time, I think we would have to probably be, double, triple of where we are now before we really scratch the surface of the significant impact of the hospitals. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't be doing certain things? It would be very easy for us to double and triple if we don't wear masks, if we don't go back to washing our hands religiously, if we don't do some of the things that we've done. Listen, I'm not preaching. I'm saying I've done the same things. I quit putting my hand sanitizer on. I mean, I certainly wash my hands when I go to the restroom or I'm getting ready to eat, but I have not been as religious about spraying this, my hand sanitizer as I was probably in March and April. So I think that's the kind of stuff that they talked about. They said what they were noticing was that people were becoming much more lax, not wearing masks. People weren't taking hand sanitizer the way they were in March and April. So these were the things that the hospital directors were mentioning to me, was that we had gotten more comfortable with COVID and weren't taking the same precautions. And so I think it does rest a little bit on us to take some of those precautions.
And the next 4 questions or so are from Jeremy, so I'm not going to say it every time. But first, is the city sticking with emergency responder thresholds insofar as dialing back openings, or will you also be considering positive numbers?
We're going to be considering hospitalizations and our capacity to do the work, which is the police and fire. Those will continue to be the measures that we look at. If an individual, and what I certainly saw over the weekend, I had a few. We were with friends of mine who have children who are my same children's age, and it does seem to be that a lot of the individuals kind of in teens and 20s are getting this. They're active and going out and seeing each other, and it spreads, and that is certainly concerning. But if those individuals don't have to go to the hospital and they just get sick, why are we shutting down everything for just getting sick? The idea of what we're shutting down for is we don't want to end up in a point where we don't have the capacity to do it. If somebody like my son gets it and they don't ever require from the medical system anything more than just to stay home and get well, that's okay. I mean, if you get the cold right now, or you get another strain of the flu, that's what you need to be doing. You need to go home. We don't need to shut any businesses down because you get the flu. You need to go home, get yourself back rested, come back in ready to go. I think we're seeing a lot of that in our younger population who seems to have spread this. I know my daughter's in college. She continues to tell me stories about people that we were with a bunch of friends who knew people. My son had gone to the University of Florida. It sounded like they've had fairly significant spread of college-aged people in Gainesville, Florida. So again, as we look at some of these things that are spreading, if there are individuals who don't end up needing medical attention, that isn't a bad thing, other than the fact that they get it and have the potential to spread it, which is why I say they've got to go home. It is really incumbent upon all of us to do what we can, and that includes wearing a mask, doing all the other things that we can. So if we do that, I think that's what we got to be better disciplined about what we were doing. The way we were living in April and May, if we do that, I'm sure we can beat back these numbers of this latest increase.
Any more positive tests for city employees?
I don't know any. I'm looking at Keith on the screen right now. I don't know of any necessarily. We do have a couple of people that have gone in, that are going in today to get tests, because they said they came back over the weekend. So we are sending them to go get a test today, but no positives at this particular time. But that doesn't mean that couldn't change with some tests. So again, I had several people that I talked to over the weekend. Some of them here at City Hall, some people I just know out in the city have expressed that they had some concerns over the weekend. I encourage everybody to go get a test. Go get a test, find out what it is, stay at home until you get the results of your test. If your results come back positive, stay at home until the duration runs out, and then when you come back, wear your mask. You've got to wear your mask so that you're not spreading the disease to someone else.
Is there a consideration to require masks in public?
I think if you just heard the Florida Department of Health, what we read, the Florida Department of Health says everyone should be wearing masks. Now, the question is, how do we deal with that? I don't know that we're at this point looking at doing something like fines or something else, but we clearly believe that everyone should be wearing a mask. That would help all of us. The Florida Department of Health is asking all Floridians to do that. Certainly in the city of Pensacola, we've been doing that, and we're going to continue to ask people to do that.
Has the committee's scope or purpose been more fully defined?
They haven't even met. I mean, much of what I talked with Cedric Alexander, Dr. Alexander last week. Staff met with him. He wants to get together with the group. He wants the group to talk to people they know and then bring back ideas. We would have liked to have done this more in a town hall setting. I think I explained to you we're going to be going more to virtual town halls just because town halls themselves at this point aren't practical. We don't want to spread the virus anymore. So again, you probably saw at the beginning of June, we talked about this. We were going to go one direction. We've kind of pivoted, and much of that is really as a response to some of the increase of COVID and realizing that having town halls is probably not practical at this particular time, more virtual. But we are going to do some of that. We are going to ask each of the 12 members to go back out in the communities that they know and get some things done.
The next question is from Dave at WWF. Are you considering making the Sunday stroll permanent at some point?
Not at this particular time, Dave. We communicated out. It was, boy, it seems so long ago. I mean, we've had so many interesting debated issues. It seems like so long ago that we were in May, and this was like the most heated debate in the city was whether we close Palafox on one day a week. But I think we looked at it. We tried to figure out what we were doing. We made a commitment to the merchants there, how long it was going to be. Sunday runs to the end of it. I got back really good response the first couple of weekends. I don't know if, we had one that was rainy and we canceled. Then we had this past weekend was Father's Day. I really haven't heard from that many individuals. I did drive down along. I was downtown. I didn't see as many people out on Sunday, but obviously it was Father's Day. So it depends on what we've got going on. But I do know I've continued to see on Saturday we had more people outside downtown. So I mean I think clearly the idea of what we wanted to get out and what the idea that the state was wanting us to do was as much business as we could outside, encourage people to get outside. And I think some way in doing that has encouraged people to come back outside, and we're working through that. So we're still looking at all those possibilities, but at this particular time, Sunday will be our last Sunday stroll. If you want to take advantage of that, please go out on Sunday and enjoy it. It's your street. It's you, the citizen's street. You have the ability to go out there and walk it, and we hope you'll take advantage of doing that. But do it in a safe, responsible way that keeps from congregating with people and spreading COVID.
Next question is from Jeremy. Can you speak to the lawsuit coming from South Palafox regarding the Streamline deal?
Lawsuit. I'm not aware of a lawsuit. And no one, everybody hears. The only thing I can say that's coming from there is we did have a group last week, a contingent of city staff and a couple of citizens, some of them from Florida West. We also had just Bobby Switzer went as Bobby's going to be moving into Seville Square area, living there. He has several other investments in downtown. We were looking for somebody who had business investments in downtown and was probably going to be living downtown because we didn't want there to be impact. The group that came back felt fairly positive about the operations in Hialeah and what they do. And I just see Kareth popping up on my screen. I know he's Kareth's from down there in South Florida area. He went back there on the group. They felt very positive about what they saw. But again, I think the only thing is going to be what's in the lease. So much of the comments that they felt like we're gonna try to take their information from what they saw with the in there and put that into the lease. I've heard significant discussion from some citizens about tightening up the ability to sublet and then creating other tight positions on the if there was any emissions. And my understanding from the discussion with city staff that went down there was the people were receptive to those. They understood that they said they weren't releasing anything in Miami, and that was their intention in Pensacola. So they certainly didn't mind if we wrote a tight lease like that. So really the ball's in legal's court at this particular time. I'm not aware of any lawsuits. No one's brought any lawsuit against the city at this particular time. But again, we are continuing to work that both with legal and with port staff. I don't think we're gonna, and still trying to tighten up the lease. I don't think we're gonna make the July date for 16th for coming to council, but I believe it will come to council in August. And so I think that's where it's going. But I know that both Susan's staff and Rusty Wells are working with Amy and Clark over at the port. And, we're going to try to bring forward something that's very tight and making sure that the people we're dealing with, I think you're going to see things in there that want to make sure the people in Miami have a controlling interest of the ownership always. I think we're going to see a lease that structures in a way that we make sure that the work they do to the building is up front and understanding those things. That was very clear from council before. And I think there's going to be very clear, stringent guidelines related to odor. And the Miami group has told us, listen, that's the way we live with it in Hialeah. We wouldn't expect to do anything different in Pensacola. So as long as those are in the lease and we feel like those give us the ability to if they can't comply with those, to tell the tenant they've got to leave. I think we've got a good lease and we've got something that's workable. That's at least the feedback that I got from all of those that went. There were some very good ideas about how to tighten the lease, and I do appreciate Bobby Switzer gave me several of those ideas. I know I've talked with Kareth about it, and they feel like there are ways for us to tighten the lease.
And just a follow up from Jim about masks. He just wanted to ask specifically, are you considering under the city state of emergency, if people continue not to wear masks, are you considering making that a requirement?
Right now, we're going to ask everybody to wear masks. The Florida Department of Health has done that. We're asking you to do it. We did this. We were doing this in May. It's not like it's a foreign thing. We just got comfortable and we started taking them off. So at this point, I want everybody out there in the city of Pensacola to think back to May when we had this, when we were dealing with the mask. Wear the mask. Mask is essential right now for dealing with the spread. The other part is trying to make sure that you can go out there and you have the ability to get yourself tested if you don't feel good, and then go home and wait for those results. And if they come back positive, stay at home until you overcome the symptoms and can come back. That's the key issue. And when you come back, wear a mask. So I think if we do those things, we're going to be consistent. At this particular time, the Florida Department of Health is asking every Floridian to wear a mask. So we're going to say every citizen in the city of Pensacola needs to wear a mask when you're in public, when you're in close places. Now, if you're out exercising and you're the only person there, I don't wear a mask when I walk because I'm not around anybody else. I may be by somebody for a split second, but I'm outside, I'm out in the sunshine. But if you see me in a place where I'm confined inside with a lot of people, then I'm going to be wearing a mask, and I'm going to ask you to wear a mask as well. I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I'm not doing. So I went to Publix this weekend. I went to Joe Patty's this weekend. I wore a mask both times I went in there. Publix, at least I saw probably maybe 30% of the people had a mask. Joe Patty's was like 10% of the people had the mask. Please wear a mask. I will say at least employees of both those places had on masks. And I know I've gotten several things from individuals who said they've gone and eaten on Palafox, and they wherever the restaurant they went didn't have people that had masks on. I know the other night I was at Angelina's with friends, and everybody at Angelina's had on a mask. I went over to Fish House to meet the Secretary of the Department of the Interior. Everyone had on a mask. So if you're an employer in a hospitality industry, make sure that your staff is wearing a mask. We all got to wear them. So that's kind of our position for this point. And you're going to see the city of Pensacola every time we have a meeting. You guys see it. We're in mask. I don't know that every public meeting in the city of Pensacola has a mask, but I would hope all the other political jurisdictions would do the same thing and be setting good examples for our citizens in wearing masks.
The next several questions are from Jeremy. How is the city or PPD responding to the Tehran Black lawsuit? I
mean, there's certainly a lawsuit at this particular time, and that's where that's going to be. If the case is going to be there, you know, I know Tehran. He actually ran for the seat that when John Gerald's. I think he certainly has some you know, he has some ability of a leader in this community. But at this particular time, I mean, I've talked to Tommy, and he feels like the individual showed what they had. So those things will go to case, those things will go to court, and it will be decided in court, and we'll go from there and live with whatever decision comes out of the court case.
Has the city designated a PPD officer to guard the Confederate monument 24/7?
No, Tommy, I think, did ask, did put out for a while, did have somebody out looking at both the MLK Plaza and when this first came out 2 weeks ago. I'm not aware of anything that we're doing at this particular time. I think when this first came out, he felt like both of those places needed to be guarded. We didn't need anybody to take inappropriate action. The one thing I will say is very clear: citizens have handled themselves respectfully with regards to both of those monuments, and I think that's what we're asking people to do. If we all handle ourselves respectfully, and we see that's what's going on, if sometimes the press could just act like the citizens and be respectful in this debate, we're going to be okay. We're going to get through this in the right way and move forward, and that's going to be the most important thing. Just like what we did 5 years ago with the flags. I mean, I think we had respectful debate. We came to a position and something that we could land on that was respectful, allowed us to show our history of being 5 flags in our colonial history, but do it in the right way that's respectful. I think we're going to do the same thing with the monuments, and we're going to make those decisions. We gotta all be respectful. We got to understand that not everybody here has the same opinion. That's okay. Diversity and difference is our strength, and we should play to that, and we shouldn't at any point ask everybody to somehow have the same position. What we should ask them to do is respect the process that we go through, and whatever that process that comes through when the council votes, we're going to respect it. It may not be what I want individually, but I will respect the process because it went the right way and what was done, and I will live with whatever happens one way or the other, even if it is not maybe the way I wanted it to be. But trust me, there's nothing I want than what is a respectful reflection of everyone's history. If we're going to share a future together in what we do and be able to be connected and work together in our future, then we have to be respectful of what each other's past is. If we can do that, we're going to be able to work together.
Can you speak about your appointees to the Citizens Committee, and why did you select these specific individuals?
I think they all expressed an interest, or others had expressed an interest in them. Certainly, they generally had things that they could work with. I thought, you know, I appointed 3 men, 2 women, 3 African Americans, 2 white. Tried to be balanced in what we did in putting things in there. I think certainly some of the individuals, you know, I tell you, I have a lot of respect for Mr. Cole. He called me this morning dealing with, obviously there was some violence that happened this weekend in the county. And again, his position is, this is about, he doesn't want anybody else dying one way or the other. I mean, his issue is just as much about dealing with the violence that is occurring in our community. We certainly had a number of things happening. He's told me he's gotten out there trying to get active in the community and remind them how much positive impact we've had, and that we don't want anything to happen going forward. So I think this was a good group that tried to be well-rounded, respectful, and tried to add to the committee of what the council members placed on there, and balanced it out. And I think it's a fairly balanced committee. That's what you want going forward. The one that has constituencies all across the city of Pensacola, and really even beyond the city of Pensacola. I mean, you look at somebody like a Vin Durant, who represents the NAACP. That's a constituency that goes well beyond just what's here in the city. So again, I think those are things that we're trying to do and be balanced and put together a committee that really is reflective of who we are as a city.
This is still from Jeremy. Is Florida Square renaming a mayoral or council decision?
It's a council decision. Again, I think what I read to you, I mean, if you rename something, if you remove something, if you do anything of historical significance, the council has to do it. Now, the mayor's office is putting the item forward, but it will ultimately be the council's vote in what ends up happening. I mean, I'm very supportive of the issue. I believe the square and its name couldn't be at a more perfect time for us to deal with the 200th anniversary. And I've been very clear in what I've said, that I'm asking for the square to reflect accurately who we are as a community. And I've asked our staff to give a report. So when the council gets there, they're going to have a report that says, hey, you know, is it possible to make the square reflective of everybody? And they'll have that recommendation. I've said that from the very beginning. I will live with the recommendation, even though it may not be exactly consistent with what I've said one way or the other. It may be, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I will always live with the decision that comes out of the process. That's what we do. We all have our individual opinions. We bring them into a process, we vote, and then after that's over, we live with what happens one way or the other. And I'm certainly prepared to deal with that. And I realize that, as I've communicated here before, there are very few of us, probably like 5% of us, that think we should be open with everybody's and have everybody's monuments there together and working together and tell the story of all of us.
And this is from Jim Little. Do you agree with the consensus of historians such as UWF history professor Jameen Wells, who told the City Council early this month Confederate monuments like the one in Pensacola were built as markers to white supremacy and, quote, were largely constructed with the intent to obscure the terrorism required to end the era of post-Civil War Reconstruction? Well,
I'm going to refer Jim back to the Pensacola News Journal's editorial of December 20th, 2014, where they take exception to a number of those issues that are related in there, and they put forward their position. I believe Jim was still at the paper back in December of 2014. So I mean, again, everybody's things changes. Everybody looks at it differently. So I'm saying over time, but at the end of the day, we're going to go through whatever the process is going to be, and I think we've got to understand that there's many things written one way as there are the other. Ultimately, it's going to be decided on what happens with the council. The only decision that I, as the mayor, are looking to put into the council is, can the square accurately reflect everyone, and what would the cost be to do that? And then there'll be a recommendation to that. That's what we've asked. I've asked the staff to prepare that. The council will have that, because I think the most important part of the square is not a variety of whatever everybody's opinion of it one way or the other, but can it accurately and respectfully communicate all of us? And if it can't, then we need to move on and do something different. If it can, then we should do that. The strength is in there together and how we respectfully all work together.
And this is from Jeremy. You trust South Palafox crew given the Rolling Hills Association and track record in Escambia County?
I think what was clearly stated, Jeremy, out of the visit to Miami is that we trust the group in Miami to work. And I think you probably, I said that earlier, that any lease we have is going to make sure that the group in Miami is a majority shareholder of what's going forward. That I think came out loud and clear. Of all those who visited, they felt very comfortable with the group in Miami, and as long as they're there and what they're doing, and they have the majority shareholder and are controlling the operations, then I think that's what the city is comfortable with at this particular time.
And I do not see any more questions, so I think we're good.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.